To FM 100 WNOX. I'm Catherine Howell. I am here with the candidates for Knox County Commission District 4 Seat A with Democrat Finbarr Saunders and Republican candidate Ruthie Kuhlman.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being our next victims. All right, well, to start off, I'm going to ask you the same question I have asked everyone. Why do you want the job? Start with you, Mr. Saunders.
Well, I believe in service. You know, I served my country in Vietnam as a U.S. Army officer. I've served this community for over 30 years in various volunteer capacities, and I just think citizens at some point should be willing to step up and help govern their community. And so that's why I'm seeking this job.
Ms. Kuhlman.
Well, I too have volunteered throughout my adult life, and even as a teenager have volunteered in Knoxville. And I was always, my parents volunteered, and they always taught me that you give back to the community that you live in. And I've just kind of stepped up the marker a little bit and gone a little further with that, and decided that with everything going on in commission, instead of talking about it, I needed to do something about it. And I wanted to bring back honesty and openness to county commission and to our government, and to listen to the citizens and do what their wishes are, and to bring the government back to the citizens.
I have a lot of specific things I want to ask you all about, but before we delve into some specifics on things that people may or may not be familiar with, I want to sort of just say, you know, if you say I'm new to Knox County and I'm trying to decide who to vote for, you guys both look like great candidates for the position. Both, I'm sure, would make great county commissioners. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you contrast yourself with your opponent? I'm going to start with you, Mr. Saunders.
Well, I really have not tried to do that. I think I am running on my own. There are two of us in this race, but I do not feel I am running against anybody. I'm running for this community. So I have not tried to contrast myself with Ruthie. I think we both have certain skills and attributes we bring to this job. I think my activity in this community, in volunteer work and in the corporate work I've done in this community, financial and otherwise, help prepare me for this. I will tell you, none of the stuff I've done volunteer-wise or in the corporate world was I trying to do to prepare for this job. But I think it has well prepared me, and I think it would serve this community well if I were elected. And I think I could help bring civility and trust back to county governance. I think I have a reasonable financial background and certainly a community volunteer background. I think many of the things I've done naturally lead to this sort of activity.
Ms. Kuhlman, how would you set yourself apart from Mr. Saunders for, you know, a novice eye?
Well, like Finbarr, you know, I too am running for the seat. But I have, I grew up in the public school system. So did my husband, so did my children. And I think that's a huge difference between the two of us. But I have worked in the legal field, the banking field. I have worked in city government. I have worked in private business, and I have worked in nonprofits. And I understand how city government or government works, how it can be run efficiently, effectively, and the use of, in using our tax dollars. And I think that with all that experience, that helps me to do this.
You talked about efficiency in government. So I'm going to ask you all another question I think I've asked every candidate, and that is your position on metro government. Is this something that would help us to reduce inefficiencies in government? Is this a wise thing to do? How do you feel about consolidating in Knox County?
Well, of course, that's not an issue that's on the ballot this time. There are no proposals. In theory, I like the idea of consolidated government. I think it could bring some efficiencies, eliminate some duplications that we have for instance, in the police, in the sheriff's department and the police department, the training academies that exist in both, and there's many other areas in purchasing, in tax collection, and so forth. There's a lot of areas that consolidation, I think, could benefit this community by in making government more efficient, and certainly more accountable to the citizens of this community. Let me back up and say one thing. Ruthie was trying to contrast herself and suggesting somehow that because I have a private education that's through the web school, that may be less worthy than a public education. Well, I believe in education, strong education, and I think we need that in this community. We must enhance that and prepare our young people to face the jobs and the situations that occur in today's world and in the rapidly changing world that we face. So while I am a graduate of a private school, I got a very good education, and my parents decided at the time that I was going through schools in the early 60s and the late 50s that the private education was where I needed to go. I did go to a private college as well in Kentucky.
Now, regarding metro government, you said you are for it in theory.
In theory, yeah, because there is no proposal on the table. And we've tried it 4 times in my lifetime, and we have not achieved it. But I think consolidation could be, for this community, a very good thing.
How do you feel about consolidating to metro government?
I believe that would be the choice of the citizens of Knox County. It hadn't passed yet, but if I were to be for it, it would all be on how the charter was written and what it says about the offices, the fee offices and whatnot, the sheriff's department. But I think that's up to the voters.
Let's talk a little bit about where Knox County is currently. Obviously, we've had a rough couple years. I mean, between term limits and the Sunshine Suit and all these audits in the mayor's office, it's been a rough couple years, to say the least, regarding appointments and people that were in and out. And where do you think we are, and how do we move forward when we've had this history of infighting, of political factions, the mayor versus the sheriff, and people who are on that boat or this boat? How can you, first of all, where do you see us being at this point, and how do we move forward from that? How do we avoid that and still have a lot political alliances and friends and whatnot? Start again with you, Finbarr.
Okay. You know, that's a matter of treating one another in a civil manner, whether that be on the commission or between the administration and commission or between the various departments and commission or whatever. If we begin to respect one another as commissioners and respect the citizens and respect their input and respect one another's input, I think things will begin to calm down. It seems to me over the last several months that, in fact, things have begun to calm down a little bit. I don't see quite as much. I don't see the divisions that you just mentioned. I don't see the sheriff and the administration division. It used to appear evident to me, but I don't see that as strongly as I used to see. And so I hope we are headed in that direction. I don't think, however, that it's something that is cured quickly. I think you're going to have to elect us, put us in office, and then watch and see if we do treat one another in a civil fashion, and we are respectful of each other's views, and we are sensitive to the citizens' needs, and that's where the bottom line really comes in, being very sensitive to the needs of the citizens in this community.
Same question to you. I mean, how do we, there have been some attacks back and forth between factions, and even though I do think that you're right that that has diminished to a certain degree, there are still those people who seem to use county commission as a sounding board to attack one another. Mm-hmm. Where are we now, and how do we move on from there?
We were on, I believe, Channel 6 with Gene Patterson, and after we were on, George Corden made the comment that he saw everything coming up